Hi guys, it's Miss Christine. How are you guys doing? I hope you guys had a great week. This week we are going to be working on color wheels. And this is something that I've wanted to do because it really gets into like color theory, or at least we will be able to use our color wheels on other projects when discussing color theory and better ways to choose colors for our images and stuff like that, as well as mixing paint and colors and stuff like that. So I've been wanting to make a color wheel, but I also wanted to make it kind of fun. But then I want you to think about what other object you might want our wheel to be. It sort of looks like it could be a beach ball. I chose to make mine into a Ferris wheel. Maybe you want it to be like the wheel of a bike. That would be kind of fun. But you can come up with a different idea other than the one that I did, okay? I want the actual color wheel to be the same as mine, but then how you decorate it and what you do in the background, that can be completely different than mine, okay? So in my instructions, I will show you what I did and how I did mine, but you do not need to follow that, okay? Do follow it for the wheel itself and for the colors and the placement and all of that. But then after you have the wheel done, I'd love to see your creativity. You're more than welcome to, do what I have done. I actually am really happy with how mine turned out. So if you really like it, feel free to go ahead and copy it. But if you want to be a little more adventurous and kind of play around and do your own thing, that's completely fine as well. For mine, I used watercolor. I used entirely watercolor, as well as pencil eraser, and also my micron pen or sharpie, and white gel pen just for some details. But the background, I did mine entirely in watercolor. And I would like you to do your wheel in watercolor. After that dries though, you can really use whatever media you want for the background or for other details. Okay, again, I chose watercolor, but whatever you guys want to do. I actually thought crayons might actually be fun for this, or markers or colored pencils. Just whatever you guys feel like doing, okay? So I hope you guys have fun with this, and go get your supplies and we'll get started, okay? Thanks. Okay guys, so we are going to start on our color wheel. Okay, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take our pencil and let's mark the center of the page just very lightly. Because I think I want our wheel to be in the middle of the page. And you know what? Sometimes you think you have the center and you just don't. Sometimes I find it's easier to turn my paper. I have an easier time finding the center, I think, when I'm doing up and down. There. Okay. Now, okay, so now that I've found my center, I'm going to make, let me see, I'm going to put a dot on the line where I think the lowest part should be, and I'm going to measure that. You know what? I can measure that right with my pencil. I'm going to take the tip of my pencil and put it right in the center, and then I'm going to put my fingers right where the dot is, right there. Here, let me make the dot bigger to show you better. Don't make your dot big, I just did that so you could see. So that's about the distance from the center. So to make a perfect circle, I'm gonna put another dot right there. Let me see. Another dot right there. And then let me connect these. And then our last one, I'm not going to measure it out. Just kind of eyeball it. And guys, drawing a perfect circle is kind of a hard thing actually. So, you know, I'm doing a lot of little strokes. That way I can kind of correct the shape as I go along. But you can see mine isn't perfect at all. This doesn't look anything like that. So do this lightly and take the time to go back and correct it and make it look like a good circle. I think that's a little bit better. It doesn't need to be absolutely perfect, but I think that for the project that we're doing, I think the closer to a real genuine circle, the better. When you're happy with it, go ahead and erase your guidelines. Let's go put the triangles in and then we can start drawing, okay? So we're gonna have a line that goes straight across the middle, like that, okay? And then we're basically going to draw an X crossing in the center. But we're going to try to make all the pieces about the same size. Okay, so we want 6 pieces total. And so you can see kind of the shape that's forming and why I was thinking, you know, beach ball, a Ferris wheel, maybe a steering wheel. But right now is where I want you to be creative and draw in a scenery, either behind it. Actually, I definitely want you to fill the white space behind it because I don't like leaving anything like blank. I don't want my object just floating in space, okay? For mine, I'm gonna do a Ferris wheel. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually extend these lines past my wheel or my circle. And then I'm gonna have the little carriages hang from there. So let's see, like this one here. Actually, I'm probably going to erase that, but I'm gonna have like a little cover and then like an upside down V. And then maybe the side of the carriage kind of comes down like that. And then we could have a door, something like that. Okay. And then erase everything that's inside of the actual carriage or the canopy. Okay. This one here, this is going to be the center. So it's going to kind of hang like this. And then my upside down V. And then my little ride. It's a straight line. And you can make it just like a perfect rectangle if you want to, or you can kind of round it, or you can make it completely rounded if you wanted to. Whatever you want to do. You know, if you wanted to also, instead of the V's, you could have just like straight lines holding it down. This is just the style that I'm doing, but yours can be totally different. So now I'm just going to clean this up a little bit. I'm going to erase anything that's inside of my objects. And if you guys have anything, you know, that you're drawing that goes over top of the edges, you know, go ahead and clean that up as well. I kind of wanted to have another circle right around here. Actually, another 2 circles. Okay, and then I need something that's going to hold this whole thing. So on mine, I just made it kind of come down like that. In my original one, I had a platform. I guess it probably would make it easier to get onto the ride, wouldn't it? If I put a platform up here. So then maybe I erase this. I'm letting you guys see all my mess ups, so you can see what goes into making it look right. Okay, I do a lot of adjusting on these things. You know, drawing, erasing, deciding something doesn't quite look how I want it to look, and going back and fixing it. Okay, and maybe this is our ground line. Maybe here we have a ground line. And maybe this is the little platform that you would go up to get onto these little things. I don't know. Now on mine also, I wanted this to be at the beach. So I'm gonna have an ocean line out here. It's gonna be mostly sky, but I wanna have a little bit of ocean. So I'll have some ocean right there. Or maybe, you know, when I color this, maybe I'll put some little waves or something in there. And I also wanna put some great big puffy clouds in here. There's one there. Then maybe one that's a little bit smaller over here. Something kind of like that. Okay. Now I'm going to turn this off just for a second so you guys can pause and just make sure that you fine tune everything and have it look exactly how you want it to look. And then we'll go ahead and get started on our actual color wheel. Okay guys, so now I've cleaned this up a little bit and I want to go ahead and paint my color wheel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick out a section. I'm going to pick the top one. And if I have any objects that cut into it, I'm going to ignore those for right now, okay? And I'm just going to wet my paper around the edges of my triangle. Just let that sit for a minute. Okay. And now I'm going to pick up some red. So I'm going to come over here, get some nice, good, genuine red. I'm going to fill in this space. Did you guys see how that just shot right around that that like umbrella thing? Because the paint is only going where the water was. It won't go past there right now. And that's why we wet it first, just to kind of set in our area. Okay, and I want this to be as true of a red as possible, so you know, might need a couple more coats, I don't know. But for right now, I'm going to leave it like that. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip a space. I'm going to rinse out my brush. I'm going to dry it on a paper towel. Now I'm going to get some water and I'm going to add it to my yellow, my pure yellow. Okay, and I'm going to skip this space and I'm going to go down to here. Now this time, I forgot to add the water first. That's okay. This time we'll just paint carefully. And try to fill in the space. Okay, something like that. I'm going to rinse off my brush again. I'm going to find a good solid blue. I think this one here looks like a good strong blue. And I'm going to skip another triangle. And I'm going to come over here with my blue. Again, remember to paint around your other objects if you have other objects in there, okay? Okay, so now I have my red, my yellow, and my blue. And now I'm going to fill in the colors in between. So what's in between red and yellow? That would be orange. So I'm going to come over here. Actually, I think this is probably my best orange. Pick out your truest orange. Paint this section again. Be careful not to paint your other objects. Now, I will say that I'm going to paint in right here because those are just like cables or something like that. And so it's okay to paint behind those. And now eventually I actually won't mind if these colors blend, but for just this second I don't want to blend them yet. So go right up to the edge, but don't cross that edge yet. Okay. Just make sure you fill it with a nice even color. now I'm going to take a clean brush that's a little bit wet, and I'm just going to go over this seam. You can kind of do maybe little circular strokes. We're just going to kind of blend that a little bit. And then we're going to do the same thing on the yellow line. I'm going to come over here with a wet brush and just sort of blend in this edge. Bringing some of the orange into the yellow and a little bit of the yellow into the orange. Okay, now I'm going to take some green. So I'm going to find my truest green, which is this one. We'll come in here. So guys, no matter what kind of other decorations you did or what drawings you did, or what you want your Ferris wheel, not your Ferris wheel, your color wheel to become, whether it's going to be like a beach ball or whatever, this part will be the same, okay? Coloring in the color wheel is always going to be the same, and we are going to actually use this in the future on other projects. You know, this isn't just, you know, kind of like a rainbow order of colors type thing. It's actually something that we use functionally when thinking about color and shading, or having contrasting colors in our artwork. So we're going to use this later on down the road. I just thought that we would turn it into a fun assignment while we were working on it. Okay, so now I'm going to take my brush and I'm going to blend this edge, the blue-green edge. And then in our last section, we'll get a good solid purple, which I think this will do. And we'll fill in this space. And again, we can fill in where the cables are, but not the other part. We'll go just kind of like that. And guys, if your paint starts to get a little bit dry, you know, don't forget this is watercolor. So don't be afraid to add more water into your paints. Okay, so we're just going to fill this in with the purple, and then we're going to do the same thing with the blending. Okay guys, so now that I have this done, I'm going to go back through and I'm going to try to add some kind of blended colors along the edges. So I'm going to find a reddish orange. Okay, so now I have like a reddish orange, and I'm just going to go over this seam with that. I'm going to go on both sides and just try to fade it in kind of. so now I'm going to use some orangey yellow. Okay, so now I'm going to fill this in with the green again. Okay guys, so I finished painting my color wheel. As you can see, it's still wet, but I tried to kind of blend these edges a little bit so that we could have a little bit of like blue-green and you know, to kind of have them run into each other just a little bit. I wanted to control it, which is why I didn't want to blend them right away while they were very wet, but after they dried a little, I went back in and was able to control kind of the gradient, if you will, of the colors blending. So anyway, so I'm gonna let this dry, and it should just take a couple minutes to get it to dry to a decent point. Okay guys, so I finished my wheel and I went ahead and made some clouds. I just took some blue and, you know, I had the paper a little bit wet and just kind of made strokes, kind of like a I don't know, I guess like the bottom part of a U or the bottom part of a circle. And just did the bottoms at first. And then I brought a little bit of the paint up. And then I used a clean wet brush to drag the paint into these other areas up here. Okay. Then I watered my background, or wet my background, but I was very careful not to touch the clouds or the wheel. And I just put the tiniest little bit of yellow or kind of peachy colored paint into the sky. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and paint the water. And I just kind of put a little bit of water on the paper in the area where my water is going to be. And I'm going to start out with this bright blue-green color. I'm not sure that I'm going to keep it, but I'm going to start out with it. And I'm just going to use the very tip of my brush to make some horizontal strokes back and forth in the water. Just play around with the amount of water and the amount of paint that you're using. I do want the background to be just a little bit wet when you put the paint on, but just kind of play around with it and see what kind of different effects you can get. To be honest with you, I actually kind of do like that color. Just trying to load my brush up a little bit here. And I'm going to put a little bit of a greenish color, just to give it some variation. I'm going to put little bits of green. Just here and there, little strokes. And see, this drier paint makes it so that it doesn't bleed and run quite as much. So the strokes are a little bit more permanent looking instead of quite so feathered. Kind of want a good combination of both types of strokes. And then last, I'm going to put a tiny bit of this blue in there too, that dark blue, the same color that I had up in the clouds. And I think I'm going to pick an orangey color for this little platform. I think I'm going to use the same color that I used for the sky, but I used it real light in the sky. And here I'm going to use it more full strength. So this is kind of like an orangey yellow. And I'm just using the very, very tip of my brush. This painting isn't as much realistic as it is whimsical. I just want it to be playful and fun. Okay guys, so now I have my sky, my clouds, my wheel, my water, and my little platform. And I'm trying to figure out what color to make this here on the bottom. And you know, I keep wanting to make it green. So I think I'm just gonna go for it. I think I'm just gonna make it green. I'm not even sure what it is. I don't know if this is, it shouldn't really be grass, but maybe it could be. It probably should be like a boardwalk or sand or something. But regardless, I keep wanting to make it green. So here we go. You can make yours whatever color you want. Okay, and I'm being careful not to add too much water, or if I do end up with a lot of water, I'm being careful not to touch any of the things that I've already painted. There we go. Maybe just a couple strokes here and there of this darker green. Okay, so I've spent the whole evening trying to figure out what color to make my little rides, and I just had an idea that I think I really like. I am going to take whatever the opposite color is and put that, make the ride that color. So if you can see, like right here, it's kind of reddish orange. The opposite of that is going to be kind of a blue-green. So I'm going to come and I'm going to take my blue-green, and I'm going to try to not let it be too dark. And I'm just going to real lightly fill that in. So let me find a purple over here. It looks a little bit bluish. Maybe this here. And again, I don't want it to be too dark, so I'm going to water that down a little bit. Put just a smidge of purple in there. Now our next one is in the greenish yellow area. So the opposite of that would be this purplish reddish. So I'm going to go with more of the red pinky color. And I can add some purple in afterwards if I want, but I'm going to start out with kind of a reddish pinky color. is opposite of the reddish orange. So I'm going to find my reddish orange up here. Okay, now I've got my blue, which is really kind of opposite the yellowy orange color. So why don't I take some of this darker yellowy orange color that I have, and we'll start with that, and then I can add to it if I want. This is also the same color that I used for the sky and for those stairs down there. See, it's a little bit darker because it's not as watered down. And just do a tiny bit of this orange over top of that yellow. This is one of the ways that you can mix colors with watercolor. You can use like a base color and then go over it with a second color that's really kind of watered down a lot to kind of mix them to create a new color. Okay, my last one is in the purple reddish area, and that's opposite the yellow green. I'm going to start here. Okay, I think this works. I am going to add a tiny bit more blue to this. I guess if you wanted to, you could shade these. I wasn't going to go that route, but if you wanted to, you could. Kind of accidentally started shading. If you did, I would just pick like a side and shade on that side only. Just kind of outline the edge. And then pull that paint up and into the other with light strokes. There. Actually, to be honest with you, I really like the shading. I wasn't planning to do that, guys, but I really kind of like it. So I'm going to run with it. Oh, my kitten wants to say hi. You stay there, Mr. Ron. I'm almost done, guys. I won't make you watch me do all of these, but just pick a, take the same color and just make it a little bit darker. Basically, just don't put as much water in it. And run it along the bottom edge and maybe along the right edge if you want to do the shading. Okay guys, so after that, after my shading, the very next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to either use my white gel pen or one of my black pens, either my Sharpie or my micron pen, and I'm going to go in and do some detail work. Like I might outline my little carriages, definitely where these ropes or chains or whatever these are would be, and outline my circle, and probably even put lines through here, maybe this circle here just for some ornamentation, and this piece right here that holds the whole thing up, maybe as well as my stairs. Maybe I want to do a line on there, but that's what I'm going to do. So I'll post a picture of that in just a minute so you can see, and you can pause on that if you want to copy what I have done, okay? But I'm just going to put in some detail work with either my white or my black pen. Okay guys, so this is my finished piece. I went through, like I said, and I outlined some of the objects with my black pen. And I also went through, if you can see, and I put little lights with my white gel pen. They don't show up quite as much on this side, but on the darker side here, they show really well. I had actually debated maybe using the black pen in some of these spots, but ultimately I decided not to. But if you want to, you certainly may. So anyway, this is my color wheel, and we'll talk about this in the future, but basically, you know, when you're using colors, colors that are opposite of each other are complementary colors. So red and green, yellow, purple, orange, blue would be complementary colors in anything that you do. And also you can use those colors to tone the other color down. So let's say your red is too bright and you want it to be a little bit more of a dull red maybe. You could take a little bit of green and put it into your red to kind of maybe desaturate it and make it a little bit more of a duller green instead of such a vibrant green. But anyway, we'll talk about that more later. But I hope that you guys enjoyed this assignment, and definitely hang on to this one because we will definitely be referring to our color wheel in the future, okay? So I hope you guys have a great week, and I can't wait to see what you guys decided to do with your images and how they turned out. And I will see you next time, okay? Take care. Bye.